Emma Alden's teeth chattered in the dark, a sound thinner than the frost clawing the window.
Papa, it's so cold.
James Alden threw back his blanket, bare feet hitting the frozen floor. The fire had died hours ago.
No more wood. Not enough to last till morning.
In the next room, his son Samuel whimpered. James scooped the 7-year-old from his bed, wrapping him in a threadbare quilt.
Both of you, into my bed. Share the heat. We'll be all right.
But the cold was a patient thief. It seeped through the bedding, through wool and skin, until even their huddled warmth began to fade.
Like it stole her. A year ago. Same cold. Same helplessness.
His wife had died of a cold fever, shivering away in this very room. He would not let it happen again.
There has to be a way. Something. Anything.
The morning came brittle and gray. James surveyed the cabin, the dead hearth, his 2 children huddled in his bed.
We need some cheer today. Let's go to the river. Find stones for a new garden edge.
They walked the snow-packed trail, 3 small figures against the white, the children's breath puffing in the still air.
Why stones, Papa? We can't plant anything till the ground thaws.
But we can be ready. Smooth stones make a fine border. Come, help me find the round ones.
James knelt at the river's edge, plucking stones from the shallows. One, larger than the others, lay exposed on a sun-washed rock. He lifted it. It was warm. The sun had sunk into its core, and the stone gave the heat back.
Warm. Not just surface warm, but deep. What if?
That one's hot, Papa. Like the sun is inside it.
James closed his fingers around the stone. Could a stone hold a fire long enough to keep a child warm all night? He carried it home without a word. That evening, James laid the large river stone in the fire. He watched it bake in the coals until it glowed a dull orange.
Emma, I have an idea. Something that might keep you warm all night.
When the stone radiated heat like a small sun, he lifted it with iron tongs and wrapped it in an old, frayed wool blanket. He slipped the bundle under Emma's quilt, nestling it near her feet. She curled into the warmth without waking.
It's so toasty, Papa. I can feel it all the way to my chin.
James sat on a stool beside her bed, listening to her breathing become slow and even. He did not sleep.
How long will it last? Can a simple stone truly replace a fire?
Dawn crept through the frosted window. James stirred, his neck stiff, his mind clouded with fatigue.
Papa, I wasn't cold at all. My feet are still warm. Look!
James glanced at the woodpile. It was still nearly full. A single stone had done the work of a whole night's fire. He began heating 2 stones every night, one for each child, until the ritual felt as natural as prayer.
I don't even miss the fire, Papa. The stones are like little dragons under my quilt.
A few days later, James entered the general store. The gossip around the potbelly stove fell silent.
Well, if it isn't the rock hoarder sleeping with stones like a lizard, are you? Real men cut wood for their families. But I suppose creek pebbles are cheaper than pride.
Laughter rippled through the store. James said nothing, choosing flour over dignity.
Let them laugh. Emma's feet are warm, and Samuel doesn't cough before dawn anymore.
As he paid, he saw Martha Clay in the corner, her baby's lips faintly blue as she clutched it tighter. That night, the stones glowed in his hearth. James sat alone, the silence heavier than the cold outside. He knew in every other homestead, fires would die by 3 in the morning. But here, the stones kept their secret heat till sunrise. 3 days later, a cold front rolled down from the peaks. By midnight, the temperature had dropped to a level that turned breath into frost. Inside James's home, the stones glowed in the hearth, radiating a steady, life-saving heat. The children were already asleep.
Outside, the world is cracking. In here, we are a pocket of summer.
But across the valley, the clay cabin was a block of ice. Thomas had stacked frozen logs in a hearth that refused to light.
Mr. Alden, the baby isn't nursing. The cold seeps into her every night, no matter how many blankets I use.
I am sorry. The winter is cruel. I wish there was more I could do.
The lie stuck in his throat. He had a way to help, but the memory of Thomas's mockery sealed his lips.
If I offer stones, Thomas will accuse me of witchcraft, or worse. Martha would be caught in the middle.
That night, the wind screamed. James lay awake, counting the cracks in the walls, knowing every other home felt them too. Only his children slept without shivering. The knowledge brought him no peace. The cold snap persisted, and with it came a new cruelty. Emma and Samuel returned from school with frost on their scarves and tears on their cheeks.
They called us rock rats, Papa. Said we sleep in a lizard's nest.
Rocks that keep you warm. A lizard's nest that keeps you alive. Let them talk. Emma, warmth is better than pride.
But they laugh, Papa. Why can't we just have a fire like everyone else?
Because a fire dies before dawn. But how do I explain that to a child?
Thomas Clay was a brute force against the mountain, but the mountain was winning.
His woodpile is almost gone. Another week of this cold, and they'll be burning furniture.
James slipped his hand into his pocket, feeling the smooth river stone he now carried always.
One word to Thomas, and I could end that struggle. But the word would cost more than pride.
He turned away, the weight of the stone heavy against his thigh, and walked home to his warm children. The next afternoon, James returned to the river's edge. He needed more stones. The nightly ritual consumed his supply. Beyond the frozen reeds, Thomas Clay was splitting logs with a fury born of fear. His woodpile had shrunk to a few gnarled rounds.
He can't keep up. Soon there'll be nothing left but the furniture. And a sick baby. A single stone could change that. Tucked beside the baby, it would outlast any fire. But how could I offer it? After the store. After Rock Hoarder and Lizard.
Still, he picked up an extra stone, smooth and heavy. He pocketed it, telling himself it was just for his own hearth.
If I left it on their step at night, they'd never know. But what if the baby wails, and they blame the stone? Blame me.
That evening, after the children were asleep, James sat alone. In his lap lay a heated stone wrapped in wool, an extra.
It's not my child, but it's a child. A life that might not see spring. One quiet knock. One brave word. I could save that baby tonight, and face the entire town tomorrow.
The cold deepened until frost claimed even the hearth inside Margaret Shaw's clinic. She moved through the valley, attending to children, one limp bundle after another.
Papa, could we send a stone to Margaret? She could give it to a cold baby.
She would be grateful, but the mothers might refuse. They believe what their husbands tell them.
At the trading post, the next day, James heard Thomas Clay's voice boom from the stables.
My wife keeps talking about those rocks. I told her, real men use fire and not stones. No son of mine will grow up soft.
The words landed like a heel, crushing a spark.
He would rather let his baby freeze than accept help from the rock rat.
That evening, James took the extra stone, still warm from the hearth, and tucked it into a drawer beneath his wife's old sewing kit.
Not my fight, not my child.
He closed the drawer and latched it. The decision tasted like ash, but it was final. The night Thomas left to scavenge wood, the sky turned to iron. James had just tucked the children when a frantic pounding shook the door.
Mr. Alden, please, it's the baby. She's gone still. Her lips are blue.
James threw the bolt. Martha stood in the blizzard with no coat, clutching a bundle wrapped in a frozen quilt.
The stone, not the drawer. The one in Emma's bed. It's still hot.
He lunged across the room, plunged his hands into Emma's bed, and pulled out the wrapped bundle. The heat stung his palms.
Thomas told me not to come. He said, we didn't need your charity, but I didn't know where else.
We'll argue later. Right now, the baby needs this. Run.
Together, they plunged into the night. The stone clutched to his chest like a second heart. The snow swallowed their footsteps. The baby made no sound, no cry, no whimper. just a terrible silence beneath the wind. James saw the clay cabin ahead, a black void against the snow. No light in the window, no smoke from the chimney. A tomb. James burst into the cabin. The air was colder inside than out. In a wooden crib, the baby lay gray and motionless, no steam rising from its lips.
Too cold for breath. The stone. Hurry.
He peeled back the frozen quilt, placed the wrapped stone beside the infant, and tucked the fabric around them both. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the stone's heat seeped outward. A thin mist curled from the cloth, and the baby's chest rose.
She's breathing. The blueness is leaving. Oh, thank God, she's breathing.
The door crashed open. Thomas stood on the threshold, a frozen log still in his arms, his face a mask of terror and confusion. He saw his wife weeping. Then he saw the stone, the same ridiculed, primitive stone, nestled beside his child, pulsing with gentle heat.
The rock rat saved her. What have I done?
She needed warmth. Not your fire, not your pride, just warmth. The stone gave it. That's all.
Thomas dropped the log. The sound echoed like a confession. He did not speak, but his silence was louder than any word. Within the hour, the midwife, Margaret Shaw, arrived, summoned by a neighbor. She stopped in the doorway, her eyes taking in the stone, the baby, the silent Thomas. Without a word, she crossed to the crib, pressing a finger to the infant's cheek, then to the cooling stone.
This child was near death. What is this warmth?
A river stone. Heated in the fire. It lasts all night. I've used them since my wife passed.
Margaret lifted the stone, feeling its residual heat. Her eyes, sharpened by decades of delivering life and death, saw a tool.
Show me. I must understand this.
James nodded. They agreed to meet the next morning. Margaret made sure the baby was nursing, then left into the snow. At dawn, Margaret arrived at James's small cabin. He had stones already heating in the hearth, the ritual as natural to him as breathing.
Why do you wrap them so thickly? Wouldn't less cloth let out more heat?
Too thin, and they burn the skin. Too thick, and the cold wins. It has to be just so. A wool blanket, folded twice.
James selected a smooth, oval stone from a basket by the hearth. He held it up to the light, checking for cracks.
It must be bone dry. Any moisture inside will turn to steam and crack the stone in the fire.
And how do you know if it's dry? Just by guess?
You feel it. A slick surface means river damp. Dry stones feel almost dusty, like a sun-warmed pebble.
He placed the stone in the coals. It sat there, absorbing heat, while they talked.
How long must it heat?
An hour, or until the center glows. You'll know it's ready when the wool wrapping hisses gently.
He withdrew the stone with tongs, the air around it shimmering. Margaret's eyes widened as he folded the blanket around it.
May I hold it?
James nodded. She cupped the bundle in her hands. The heat pulsed through the wool, steady and deep. Margaret understood then. A simple stone could change everything. Word travels faster than frost in a valley where every mother fears the night. By week's end, a line of women stood at James's door, their breath clouding the air.
Papa? Mrs. Clay says you saved her baby. The other mothers are calling it a miracle.
I just remembered something your mother taught me. The simplest things keep us alive. Now, pass me another stone.
He gave out stones like a farmer sowing seed, each one heated with a quiet prayer that no child would grow cold.
I was wrong, Alden. You are no rock rat. You are a better father than I've ever been.
We all do what we can. The stones belong to everyone now.
Thomas's apology turned the tide. Men who once laughed now brought smooth stones from their own riverbanks.
Papa, the other boys want to be my friend now. They say you are a wizard with warm rocks.
I told them it's not magic. It's love. Papa's love. And Mama's.
For the first time since his wife's passing, James saw not pity in his children's eyes, but pride. Within days, the Valley Mothers had a name for the warmth: Alden Stones. They spoke it with reverence.
He made them because he loves us. Now every baby can be warm.
James, carrying firewood, heard her. He paused in the doorway, his throat tight.
Papa, would Mama be proud of the stones?
She would, Samuel. She always loved the river.
He looked at the small photograph on the mantel. His wife's gentle smile, her fingers curled around a river stone she once treasured.
It's like she's still here, guiding me. Every hot stone is her gift.
Mama would say love is the best blanket. Papa wove it into stone.
Thus, the Alden stones became a symbol of a father's ingenuity, a mother's memory, and the love that endured the coldest nights, alone by the fire. James would hold a wrapped stone and murmur, "For our children, Sarah. For you." The following week, Margaret gathered a dozen women in the Alden cabin, a basket of stones at her feet.
Always test a stone for cracks. A split stone in the fire can shatter and burn.
James stood near the hearth, watching the knowledge pass from his hands to hers, and now to all.
If I had known this last winter, Sarah might still be in the next room.
After the women left, he stood before the image of Sarah, a hot stone wrapped in his hands.
Every child I warm now is an apology to you.
That afternoon, needing the river's quiet, he walked alone to the bank where it all began. He dug through the snow, pulling out smooth stones, their cold weight a strange comfort.
She loved this river. Now it feeds our children every night.
He filled his pockets with stones and regret, knowing the first fed the world, and the second only himself. The next morning, a dozen men stood at James's door, axes and shovels in hand, their faces, once scornful, now held a question. Teach us.
You are looking for the round ones? Smooth as an egg. No sharp edges. No hairline cracks. Those are the keepers.
Back at the cabin, he heated a demonstration stone in the dying coals. The men watched the orange glow in silence, their arms crossed against curiosity.
And this rock really holds heat till dawn?
Longer than your fire, Thomas, and it never turns to ash. Wrap it tight, and it'll outlast the coldest night.
By afternoon, the Alden shack hummed like a beehive. Children carried wrapped stones to neighbors, and Emma directed them with a new, firm confidence.
Papa, Mr. Clay says, our house is the warmest in the valley, even warmer than the store stove.
A year ago, I was the outcast. Now I am the hearthkeeper.
He looked at the stacked woodpile, barely touched all winter, and felt a quiet pride in the savings.
Belonging is warm, but the empty chair still cuts.
By the time the first thaw softened the icicles, James had saved 3 cords of oak. He hitched the sled.
New boots for the boy, a warm coat for Emma, and socks, thick wool socks.
The storekeeper weighed the wood against the goods. For the first time, James bartered with plenty, not need. He returned home with a bundle under his arm. Emma and Samuel met him at the door, eyes widening.
Papa, are those for us?
James handed them new coats, boots, and socks. The clothes fit perfectly, as if cut from the same care as the stones.
Look, Papa, I am a proper lady now.
I can run all day in these. No more cold toes.
They look like they belong to a family with a future.
That night, the fire was small, but the stones were warm, and so were the hearts around the table. At the midwinter gathering, Margaret Shaw stood before the valley, a wrapped stone in her hand.
I've delivered 100 babies in this valley, and I've buried far too many from the cold. But this winter, we lost none.
She raised the stone, steam curling from the wool.
This is an Alden stone, named for the man who turned river rocks into a hearth.
James, in the back row, studied his boots. The applause began before he could hide.
They're clapping for rocks, for me.
My baby would be dead if not for him. He put a hot stone in her crib and saved her life.
Martha lifted her healthy, squirming infant. The room thundered with gratitude. Thomas Clay gave a single, solemn nod. The apology was in the stillness. James finally looked up, a rare smile breaking through the stubble. The stones belonged to everyone now. As the gathering dispersed, A weathered farmer clasped James's shoulder. The next valley needed him, he said, to teach them about the stones.
Thank you, but no. My children are just learning to laugh at the table again. I won't miss a single evening.
He walked home under a sky pricked with early stars, the snow crunching a familiar rhythm. Inside, the cabin glowed with the last of winter's hearth. Emma and Samuel were already in their night clothes, waiting.
Your mother used to do this with hot bricks from the oven. She'd say a warm bed is a mother's hug that lasts all night.
I remember her hands, Papa. They were always warm.
Then she's still here. Every hot stone is her hands tucking you in. Now, sleep.
Emma curled into the quilt, the stone's heat radiating like a heartbeat. Samuel was already asleep, his small hand resting on his own bundle. James sat in the old chair, watching the fire fade. The stones would keep them until morning. He didn't need to tend the flames anymore.
We made it through. Sarah, they're warm. And I am still here.
The ice on the river cracked with a sound like distant thunder. Spring had arrived and the water ran clear and cold over the stones.
Look, Papa. The stones are so smooth now. The water's been polishing them all winter.
That's what the river does. It wears away the rough edges. Like people.
They waded into the shallows, picking out the roundest, driest stones for next winter's warmth.
This one's still cold from the snow melt, but by next winter it'll be hot as a coal.
I am keeping this one. It's my lucky stone. See the speckles? They look like stars.
A year ago, I came here to build a garden border. Now we're building a future.
The river murmured, the same river that had given him the idea that saved his children.
Peace feels strange. Like a coat I haven't worn in years. But it fits.
He watched Emma cradle her lucky stone, Samuel splashing nearby. This was what surviving was for. On the anniversary of Sarah's passing, the first wildflowers pushed through the thawing earth. James and the children walked to the cemetery, a small wrapped stone in each hand.
Your mother loved the first warm days. She'd say the sun remembered how to be gentle.
He placed a sun-warmed stone on the grave, its heat seeping into the earth.
Mama's warmth never left us, did it, Papa? It just went into the stones.
She knelt and placed her lucky speckled stone beside his.
Does she know we're here?
Every night she tucks you in. She knows.
On the mantel at home, the small photograph of Sarah seemed to smile a little warmer now. The cabin stood in the spring sun, smoke curling from the chimney, stones lining the garden path, a quiet testament. The Alden stones were used in that valley for generations. A father's love, a mother's memory, a warmth no winter could steal. Seasons turned. The Alden cabin weathered sun and snow, always with smoke curling from the chimney. Emma grew tall, her lucky stone still on her windowsill. Samuel's hands became strong enough to wield an axe. Newlyweds in the valley received an Alden stone as a wedding gift. Blessing for a warm home. James never remarried. He said the river was his companion, the stones his congregation. On quiet evenings, he still sat by the fire, a wrapped stone in his lap. The photograph smiling down, travelers spoke of a cabin where warmth could be borrowed with a single stone. Decades later, the grandchildren still placed hot stones in their beds, and they told the story of the widower who first listened to the river. In a valley where winter once took the week, a simple stone became the heart of every home. And on the mantel, beside the wrapped stone, Sarah's smile never faded. A father's love, a mother's memory, a warmth no winter could steal.